Mm-hmm. This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning. You're listening to the Mac and Jack Sports Show on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Mac and Jack Sports Show. Jack should be joining us here in a minute. But while we wait for him, let's get a little bit into the Thursday night game. As the Eagles go up, their record goes to 2-0 as they beat the Minnesota Vikings 34-28 last night. Hurts went 18 for 23 for 193 yards, one touchdown, one interception. DeAndre Swift, 28 carries for 175 yards and one touchdown. Devontae Smith had 4 receptions, 131 yards, and 1 touchdown. Kirk Cousins goes 31 for 44, 384 yards, and 4 touchdowns in a losing effort. Justin Jefferson had 11 receptions for 159 yards. And Minnesota drops to 0-2 on the season. 4 turnovers, folks. They had a few turnovers last week, too. And we'll have Jack coming up here and share some of his thoughts on Thursday night football. Good morning, Jack.
Hey, good morning, Mac. How you doing?
Doing fine. Glad that you could make it in and join us. Jack, Minnesota Vikings, again, turned the ball over this game, 4 turnovers. And it was almost like they were trying to give the game away to the Eagles last night.
Yeah, Mac. Let me just comment. It's called a Mac and Jack Sports Show, so thank you for welcoming me on. I know you like the spotlight to yourself, Mac, but you're going to have to share it today, especially since you made the clerical error putting down in my preseason predictions that I predicted the Vikings would be a playoff team. I said no such thing. I said it was the Cowboys. Let me keep stating that for the record. So at the end of the year, when the year goes by, you're going to want to point it out as evidence, my predictions. Listen, sluggish start for teams early in the year. A sluggish start for the Philadelphia Eagles this year, but they're 2-0. As Pack says, they're getting the W's. It doesn't matter how a team plays right now, as long as they're trending towards improving and they get the victories. They get the victories right now. It pays off late on as far as home field advantage, obviously getting in the playoffs before then. And the Eagles haven't been at their best the first 2 games against New England and now against Minnesota, yet they won both games. That's the mark of a really good team. When you underperform, you're not at your best, you're still winning. Things get better as the season goes along, and the Eagles are going to have the type of year we thought they would have. Vikings and Eagles, what a sloppy game, Mac, with all those turnovers in the first half. And Justin Jefferson about to score a touchdown, and he stretches out, loses the ball. It's a touchback. They lose 7 points out of that. Philadelphia recovers. They get the 61-yard field goal at the end, and that's like a 10-point swing there. And the Vikings have to be very frustrated. They're 0-2.
Good morning, Ian. Good morning, Ian from Australia. I love Australian football. I guess they got the Final Four going up there, and 96,000 fans. Wow! So that's a big thing in Australia. You're right, Jack. A win is a win. It doesn't really matter how you win. And I think what's happening is me and Jim talked about earlier in the year. Football's a circular thing. And here comes the ground and pound again. They draft all these light, fast defensive players, heavy draft and defensive backs, number 1 picks. And now the teams are saying, hey, if you're going to put these light defensive players on the line of scrimmage and we got a big offensive line like the Eagles do, we're just going to run the ball at you. And you saw some of that last weekend. I think you're going to see a lot of that this weekend too, Jack, with teams with good running games are going to just pound the ball away and take advantage of the smaller defensive linemen.
And when we talked about a lot, Mac, in the preseason, the value of running backs, the Minnesota Vikings think Dalvin Cook is expendable. They let him go. They weren't willing to pay him. And now where's their running game at? They have no running game at all. They had Dalvin Cook's backup in there. He was ineffective yesterday. And without a running game, you better have a running quarterback. Let's put it that way. If you don't have the right running backs, you better have an elite running quarterback who could pick up yardage that way. And Kirk Cousins isn't that for the Vikings. He's not a running quarterback. He's basically a pocket passer. So the Vikings have some problems they're going to have to iron out.
Yeah, I agree with that. Good morning, Joseph. Their defense is not as good as last year. Well, you got to remember Mayberry wasn't playing. There was a few Eagles that were out of that game yesterday, and Bradbury. There's two others. I'm not sure who they were, but I know they had at least three guys out of that game and still beat the Vikings. Again, we're going to see a running game, I think, coming back to football again. And you're right there, probably the best in defensive lines in the division, maybe. I mean, San Francisco, you got to put up there with them too. Dallas also. So arguably, I'll give you that, Joseph. And Jack. So anyway, the Eagles go to 2-0. Dallas has a big one coming up with the Jets. The Giants have a game they should win, and against the Cardinals. And we'll see what the Commanders do. They had a rough week last week too.
Mac, a little controversy could be arising. Jaylen Brown, the great receiver there in the Eagles, he really, he was going off on the sideline with Jalen Hurts. It could have been just one of those interactions that looked worse than it actually was, but he wanted the ball thrown to him more. It could have been just a competitive thing. Come on, give me the darn ball. Right. And we might be making too much out of it. But keep this in mind, Devontae Smith, who's the 1A receiver on that team, who, in at least my opinion, potentially could be one of the best receivers in the NFL. How much longer do you expect him to play Robin to Brown's Batman? I mean, Smith is ready to take off. And show what he could do. He performed very well in his rookie year there, with the Eagles and the couple of years, there. But he could be an elite receiver in his own right, one of the best. And yesterday, Hurts hits him on a 63-yard touchdown pass, and he electrified the crowd. And we all see his potential. So there might be something brewing in Philadelphia where your top receiver, Brown, all of a sudden has to share the throws pretty equally with someone else. We'll see how it goes. But Brown and Hurts actually are good friends because Hurts helped recruit Brown to the Eagles. People forget that. But that's a storyline that maybe we're making too much out of, Mac, but let's keep an eye on it to see.
You mentioned that, stretching the ball. That has got to be one of the worst rules in the NFL. It kept Cleveland from advancing when they had the Kansas City right where they wanted them at the end. And just because a guy is trying for a touchdown, you're going to penalize him because he stretches the ball over the pylon, whatever that they call that down at the goal line. He's trying to score. So I think that's a dumb rule, Jack. It's because of a long time ago when people used to kick the ball into the end zone and recover it. That's not the intent. It's called the spirit of the rule that they have in the NFL. They do use that. The guy's trying to get a touchdown. Let's get that rule off the books. We don't need that there anymore.
Well, what I suggest, the rule should be altered where the team who had the ball, they stretch. It goes out of bounds in the end zone. They keep possession at their own 20-yard line. It maybe goes back to their own 20-yard line, but what are you going to do on the down? If they're stretching and it's a second down play, are we then going to say third down from their own 20? I don't know, but maybe that's the answer. Yeah, maybe they keep possession, but they could still kick a field goal if they have to, but they still have possession of the ball. But I kind of agree with you. Some rules kind of become outdated in time. And I think this is one of the rules that's a bit outdated.
I think that rule should be changed by for next year, and hopefully they do that. I mean, it's almost bad. I've been yelling about this for years. The defensive interference when it's 4th and 17, and you heave the ball down the field, and then you got a 1st and goal at the goal line. I think that's crazy too. I think
Justin Jefferson, who's arguably the best receiver in the game, arguably. He was distraught over losing the ball.
Sure.
You saw his coach, Kevin O'Connell, kept going over to him to calm him down. And Justin Jefferson, who's one of the Viking captains, he takes his role seriously. He really felt he let his team down. You could tell the way it affected him, which is good. We tell players to shake things off. But if a player shook things off so quickly where it didn't even bother him, we wouldn't like to see that. So it's a fine line, Mac. We like to see it bother the player enough because he's a competitor and he hates that happening. But then again, you have to have a short memory because the next time you go on the field, you can't be thinking about that.
I agree with you there. I don't agree with making it a penalty for a guy trying to score a touchdown.
No, when he lost possession of the ball, Mac, that is a penalty. You lose possession of the ball, it goes out of bounds.
What I'm saying is if you're
down by
if you're down by the end zone and you're stretching to try to make a touchdown, I don't think the man should be penalized for that. That's all I'm saying, Jeff.
No, Mac, you lose a fumble out of bounds before the end zone, you keep possession of the ball from the point and where you fumbled.
Right.
Okay. So maybe we should be a little more consistent. Maybe if a team fumbles the ball and it goes out of bounds, then let's have a new rule that they lose possession no matter what when the ball goes out of bounds, not just in the end zone, but anywhere out of bounds. Because the truth of the matter is,
you don't lose possession, Jack. The last person that touches the ball, last team has possession of the ball. You don't lose possession of the ball.
Maybe in your rule, Mac, you fumble the ball, it goes out of bounds anywhere. It's a loss or down, and the ball goes back to the line of scrimmage.
Yeah,
maybe that's the answer.
I don't know. I just think they've got to adjust that rule. This is not Dave Casper kicking the ball into the end zone trying to get a touchdown. So let's get a little bit. Racers are getting hotter by the minute. There are some teams, even though they're over 500, are out of the equation to get in the playoffs. But I'll give them to you anyway. In the American League East, Baltimore's at 91-55. Tampa Bay is at 91-57. Toronto at 80-67. Boston and New York Yankees are tied at 74-73. In the Central, only one there is Minnesota at 77-70. In the West, you still got 3-team race over there. You have Houston at 83-64, Texas at 82-60, and Seattle at 81-65. You may see 2 teams from the West get in there this year, Jack. With that 3-team race going over there right now.
Big difference between the AL and NL wild card. The AL wild card teams have played well this year, have a good record to get in the playoffs. In the NL, you just have to finish a little over 500. Shame on the Mets. The Mets could have had a bad year, and the bad year for the Mets would have been 85-77. And maybe that's going to be good enough to make the playoffs this year. There's a good chance that record is going to get a team into the playoffs. For all we know, 83-79 might do it this year when all is said and done. And the Mets aren't even in contention. I mean, shame on them. The same with the San Diego Padres, 2 elite teams. And they're not going to make the playoffs. And in the AL, it's just the opposite. The Blue Jays just got swept by the Texas Rangers, and that dealt a severe blow to the Blue Jays' playoff chances. Even though they might rebound, there's still time to rebound and snatch a wild card berth, but they made it very hard on themselves now. And the divisions, Matt, we say it doesn't mean much, and in some cases it might not, but you think of the AL East. The Orioles have a one-game lead over the Rays. It looked like they might shake the Rays after the Rays got off to a great start this year. The Orioles overtook them, but now the Rays came back and they took what, 3 out of 4 against Baltimore, I believe. And they're only one game behind them now.
Yeah.
And I think it would mean a lot to the Oriole organization if they win the AL East with all their young players. It would have meant they came all the way back from being a mediocre team for years to actually winning the division.
I love the Orioles are at least going to make the playoffs this year. It's good to see, one of those older teams in AL East going up there and competing again. I like that, especially with the young players.
Even Aaron Hicks is playing well for them. He was injured for a while. He starts a lot, and comes off the bench, and he's performing.
Yeah.
And and the thing that drives me crazy, the Yankees tend to get rid of players who aren't playing well when they can. Not the guys with monster contracts like Giancarlo Stanton, who they can't just give up his contract and they don't want to eat all that money. That's understood. But a pitcher like Sonny Gray, he has an off year in New York, so they come to the conclusion, oh, you can't pitch because of the pressure being in New York. What kind of nonsense is that? So they get rid of him. Aaron Hicks, I hear, well, he wouldn't have done this as a Yankee, but he did do it as a Yankee for 1 year. That's why he got the contract. Let him work it out. Stay the course with these guys. And their number guys, there's Mike Tauchman with the Cubs. He's performing well for the Cubs as an outfielder. The Yankees had him as an outfielder, and they moved on from him. And sometimes the best thing to do with your players is just stay with them. If you feel they have promise at one point, they're not performing, stay with them, keep playing with them. Because if other teams want them and then other teams are willing to put them in a prominent role and they're decent teams, why not you?
Yeah, and the Yankees, Donaldson has come up with some big hits for the team he's playing with now.
Well,
too.
Donaldson didn't really have a future with the Yankees. Maybe
I agree.
he can help Milwaukee.
I think Jack, it's the Yankee fan base. I think some players. I mean, Hicks was booed excessively for anything he did. His eyes were on him. Every time he got up to bat, they booed him. Every time that he missed a play or made an error, they booed him. He was booed constantly. I think it was good for Hicks to push on, get a new team, get a new start. He just couldn't do it anymore with the Yankees.
It wasn't Hicks's decision, Matt. I would have sat down with Aaron Hicks and I'd say, look, the fans are booing you for now. It's not fair. It's this, it's that. What do you want to do, Aaron? We'd like you to stay a Yankee, but if you feel you'd be better off elsewhere, we'll accommodate you. No hard feelings. What's best for Aaron Hicks? You tell us. And if Aaron Hicks says, I really want to stay with the Yankees, I want to work through this, that means he'd be at a decent mindset to do that. I'm going to give you an example of the Yankees moving on from a guy a little too quick. Harrison Bader. He's with Cincinnati now. Moving forward, you'll see Harrison Bader is going to be a good player moving forward. He's an excellent defensive center fielder. And he's going to be doing it for someone else next year unless the Yankees sign him as a free agent. That's always a possibility in the offseason. But if they just wanted to move on from Harrison Bader because they feel, well, he gets injured, he's this, he's that, you're going to see that's going to turn out to be a mistake.
Well, we shall see, Jack. Let's get to the NL. NL East, Atlanta's at 96-50. The Phillies at 79-57. Miami's at 75-72. In the Central, Milwaukee is the only one competing there. There's no other team. They're at 82-64. In the West, the Dodgers now have a commanding lead over both San Francisco and Arizona. Their Dodgers are at 88-57. San Francisco and Arizona are basically in the dead heat. San Francisco at 75-71. Arizona at 76-72. Arizona is the only team, Jack, that's kind of hung in there. They jumped out to a big start. They were playing really good ball, kind of faded, but they've come back, and they're still and they're dealing. And that's one of the teams that I was looking at. We were looking at the Padres. We were looking at some of the other teams. So Arizona's still alive.
Whoa, Mac, you picked the Padres to win the World Series. Don't say you were looking at them.
Oh my
You
God.
picked the Padres over the Blue Jays in the World Series. As I recall.
Yeah,
You're still alive with the Blue Jays and the Wild.
Sorry, I meant the Pittsburgh Pirates. My bad, Jack.
Oh, okay.
Everybody was looking at the Pittsburgh Pirates in the beginning. Yes, I did.
Because they got off to a great start, Mac. The Pirates got off to an incredible start. The Pirates reminded me of a marathon race where it's 26 miles, where you see one runner for the first 4 or 5 miles, he's way ahead of the pack because he tears out at a record pace or something. And they're going to catch up to him. But they caught the rest of the NL, they caught up to the Pirates pretty quickly. And Pirates are what? There's something like 10 games under 500 now.
They felt very good.
They have some good young talent there. So maybe in a couple of years, the Pirates are going to be a factor. But right now, it was an illusion, their quick start early in the year.
Definitely was. Jack, do you? I mean, it's been suggested before that at the end of the year, at each conference, they just put the top 8 teams in there with the best records, and they play off till you get down to the best team. Are you for that, or do you think they in the playoffs are structured? It should stay the same way it is right now.
Well, what sport are we talking about?
Baseball.
No, the problem with baseball, there are no real advantages going into the playoffs beyond getting a bye. If a team gets a bye, that's good because that's as if they won a series that they get to advance. But even with that said, it comes with a certain risk because baseball, unlike other sports, it relies on sharpness, okay? And if you give a baseball team an extra week off, unlike football where they could rest up and maintain their sharpness, they kind of lose it in baseball. You got to be playing all the time. I mean, basketball, you could have a week off. They might say it affects your shooting. Maybe not so much. Okay, hockey, the layoff doesn't affect you much. But in baseball, you really can. It really could hurt if you're off for 10 days and the other team played the day before. The team that played the day before is probably more ready than you to play. But with that said, I think the format's okay the way it is now. 3 wild card teams, the team with the best record, they get buys. So I can live with that the way it is.
So let's talk a little bit about your boy Aaron Rodgers there. We'll talk a little bit more with Byron when he comes in. With the type of injury he has at his age, Jack, do you think that he comes back? I mean, even if he doesn't, the Jets are guaranteed to pay him $75 million, even if he doesn't play another snap. Do you think Aaron Rodgers at his age, and I've watched other former players talk about the excruciating, rehabilitation you've got to go through to get back. Now, Rodgers saying he's coming back. He says, I'm coming back, something about the sun's going to rise or whatever he said there. But he's telling everybody he's coming back. What do you think at a quarterback at 39 years old trying to get over an injury like this?
I think he can come back if mentally he's into it. He has to be 100% committed, Mac. If Aaron Rodgers is mostly committed to coming back, he has some doubts. If he has a let's wait and see attitude, I'm going to try to come back. If I'm not comfortable, I can always retire. If he has that second door, then I'm not that optimistic. But if he has a mindset, I'm coming back no matter what, nothing is going to stop me, I believe he absolutely can. Other athletes have come back from that type of injury. He's not a wide receiver or a defensive end who needs that explosive movement, the cutting. He's not a running back. It's a little different from a quarterback. You don't have to quite have the same explosive movements that, some of the other positions might have to have. What might be a telltale sign, Mac, what Aaron Rodgers really intends as his mindset is this. As soon as he's able to join the Jets on the sideline, will he be there? Will he be there for the games? Because if you see him on the sideline for all the games as soon as he's physically able to, that means he's coming back next year. That means he's encouraging his teammates. He's staying as a leader of the team. But if he's absent the whole time and he's not around and he's just saying the right things, he's going to kind of become somewhat detached from his teammates, even though they'll still have an affection for him. And that's a bit of a red flag.
Good morning, Byron Williams, our NFL analyst. And here's a former player that may be able to speak on a subject with more expertise, if you will. Byron, the type of injury Aaron Rodgers has, the rehab on this is very, very painful. It's hard to do, even for a young player. A 39-year-old, player that he's got all the money he can ask for. He's got the guaranteed $75 million in the bank. He's going to get paid. I mean, he's a competitor. We know that. But what happens when he starts doing that rehab and the pain is shooting up his leg and it's going to take him, weeks and weeks to get this rehab, just so he can walk properly again? What do you think Aaron Rodgers is going to do, Byron? Does he come back next year, or is that, his last final series?
Well, I think he's coming back. I was 34, 35 when I ripped my Achilles. I was still playing. I came back another year. I came back and ran the coach said if you could run a 4.3, you could play another year with us, and I did. I ran a 4.3, and I was at 35 years old. But I just think with his commitment and what he wanted to do, I think he felt now that he's obligated to be there, coach, and help those guys understand the game better. His expertise on what he can do, and off the field with the team as well is so important. And I think he came there for a reason, and that's get another Super Bowl. And I think this will either be more time to really invest into the opportunity of having Zach Wilson and other things like that. So he brings a lot of value to the team. I think that's he's all about winning. He's all about winning the MVPs and things like that, just like Tom Brady was. And I think that's what he's gonna do. I think the Achilles is the only thing about injuring your Achilles is it takes a year. It takes a whole commitment of rehab, like you said, and it takes it's an obligation of you just it just have to heal itself. Every two weeks they have to take a cast off and put another cast on for the first probably 6 or 7 weeks, just to let that area heal and stress the ligaments and let it also be more stronger when you come back. But Kobe Bryant came back from those injuries. Other players who
Kevin Durant, right?
Yeah, Kevin Durant. So now you got better judgment on what to do and how to do things. So I think it's not as serious as it was 20, 30 years ago. I think now they understand how to heal it and get it back to where you can be at a high performance level.
Let me ask you this, Byron and Mac. I'm curious what you have to say too. People are talking now about Zach Wilson as if he's a charity case. Who else are they going to bring in? People assuming that Zach Wilson isn't going to do that well moving forward, and the Jets are going to need someone else. Let's say it's just the opposite. Let's say Zach Wilson really has made the improvement. Let's say he starts playing much better and he starts playing like he was worthy of the number overall 2 pick in the draft. And let's say the Jets go to the Super Bowl with Zach Wilson. That defense plays great, but let's say Zach Wilson plays very well. And let's say he's like Brock Purdy was last year with the Niners. Now Aaron Rodgers is coming back. And it's like, wow, they're thinking an Aaron Rodgers who might be diminished a bit next year as opposed to a rising young quarterback. Now, I know they're still going to have to start Aaron Rodgers. There's no way you're going to say you have Zach Wilson's backup. Might that create an uncomfortable situation for the Jets?
And me personally, I think now Zach Wilson probably learned a lot just, going through hard knocks and training camp and being around Aaron Rodgers as much as he have already. And I think it won't cause any kind of confusion because they know that the job is Aaron Rodgers because of what he brings to the table and everything. I just think Zach Wilson now can become more mature-minded. If you look at Jordan Love and what he did and how he's doing things, this is the first game, with Green Bay, I think it's good to sit and watch and stuff. I think now the game is so to where these players are being rushed in, and I think Zach Wilson can be that good player. I think it's a lot of time you're just not ready to play until your third and fourth year in the NFL, at quarterback. But that's my opinion. I just think Zach Wilson still have the skill set and the talent level to play and perform at a high level.
Byron, Mac and myself off the air yesterday, we had a bit of a debate and we had a difference as far as a difference of opinion, what the Jets should do against the Cowboys. Mac feels the Jets should stick strictly with the running game to be sure Zach Wilson makes no mistakes. But my logic is the Cowboys are going to jam the line of scrimmage. The Jets aren't going to be able to pound it. To my way of thinking, let Zach Wilson, the first possession, open things up. Let him start throwing the ball and put some doubt in the Cowboys, defensive unit's mind. Hey, this guy could pass on us. We can't just concentrate on stopping the running game. And as a result, that would help the Jet running game. But I think Wilson should come out firing in the beginning.
I think they should run at the Cowboys. I really do because of the way the running backs are performing. I think the blocking scheme is going to be good. I think Dallas do a lot of upfield rushing and gap control on the defense. And I think they only got one really good, explosive, great linebacker. So I think I would run at them. I think they cornerbacks going, they're going to try to cover the wide receivers. But I do think that you should run at the Cowboys. I really do. I think the Giants didn't bring that, huh?
You know what I love, Byron? I love all these people that put down Zach Wilson. He shouldn't even be on a team. They should trade him. And now they're all, Zach Wilson could, he could be, he should be throwing all the time. And come on.
So I didn't say they should trade him. I'm not one of those.
Zach Wilson is a average quarterback who throws the ball abandonedly downfield. He's going to make mistakes. He doesn't know how to read the defenses right yet. He hasn't played enough. And the Dallas Cowboys have one of the best pass rushes in the league. They definitely have one of the best defensive back groups in the league. Of course you run at these guys and try to keep them on their heels. It would be a huge mistake for the Jets to go out and start throwing the ball right away because they're going to end up losing the game in the first quarter. They got a good defense.
First possession, Mac. That's all I'm talking about.
Possession,
the Cowboys expect the Jets to run from the get-go, and they're going to stop the run.
Jack, the way to beat the Cowboys is to run directly at them. That's the way you beat the Cowboys. You're not going to beat the Cowboys by throwing the ball all over the field. You're just going to put Zach Wilson under pressure, and he's going to end up throwing interceptions on the first drive. That's what you do. You run the ball at the Dallas Cowboys.
No, guys, we keep talking about the Jets, but since last Monday when they beat the Buffalo Bills, we haven't talked about Buffalo. They have a 10-point lead at the half. Aaron Rodgers is out. Peyton Manning comes on the halftime show and says things are just going to get worse for the Jets, meaning they're behind 10 points. In other words, he's feeling the Jets could lose this by 20 points or more. And if I'm Buffalo, I say, what just happened? How on earth did we lose this game? We're up 10 points at the half. No Aaron Rodgers. What just happened?
Jake, you know what? What I saw, though, their defense stepped up. And they really, they was in perfect position. I mean, intercepted, the safety intercepted the ball 3 times. So they made some plays on defense. You got to give a defense credit, and they stepped up on defensive side of the ball. It's just not on offense, and then they have a special team. So that other part of the team kicked in, and that's what really made the game really exciting because Buffalo Bills couldn't really do nothing. They couldn't move the ball past the 50-yard line.
This might be the Jets' best defensive unit in their history, arguably.
Yeah.
In franchise history. It's exciting watching those guys on defense.
Yeah,
listen, let's not give Buffalo or the Jets defense that much credit as far as listen, Josh Allen threw the ball in double coverage downfield. He threw it up there for grabs in the double coverage. He threw the double coverage on the sideline. Josh Allen played a terrible game. The loss is his and his alone. Turned the ball over 4 times against the Jets defense, which is good. I'm not saying the Jets defense ain't good. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm saying Buffalo and Josh Allen, they got to sit down with Josh Allen and they got to tell him to grow up and stop trying to win games by himself. Let the game come to you. Throw the ball underneath. Run the ball more with the running backs, not Josh Allen. I don't know if Buffalo can do that, Byron. But, to just say it was because of the Jets defense is totally wrong.
Yeah, but another thing, too, he would try to force the ball to Stephon Diggs, and I think that really hurt him as well because he don't even look the defense off. He really dictating where he's throwing the ball. I think he's not playing complete sound fundamental football as a quarterback in this first game. So maybe they'll correct that part, and that's what they need to do next. But
well, Byron, Josh Allen's an elite quarterback. I know he was sloppy, but consider this. He doesn't really have a running game. He has James Cook, who did okay, but James Cook shouldn't be a featured back on any team. He should be a nice complementary piece. And he had no blocking.
Yeah.
No blocking there, too. So what's he supposed to do? He made a couple of bad throws. And even in overtime, they went 3 and out when they got the ball first in overtime. And that was like, wow, people kind of forget that. Not even to get a first down, not even to be able to get in field goal range.
Yeah, exactly. And you got to get first down. You got to be able to move the ball. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. Absolutely.
Well, Byron, 4 playoff contenders. We're going to get to the Giants later because I got a lot to say about that.
He doesn't want to get to the Giants, Max.
No,
Byron says it's
there were
okay
4 contenders.
to give him a bye in this show this week.
There were 4 contenders that really just got walloped. Cincinnati against Cleveland. Joe Burrows had hardly any time to throw the ball. I think he completed maybe 4 passes or something ridiculous. Lowest pass for any quarterback, especially the highest paid player in the NFL. The Pittsburgh Steelers get dominated by the San Francisco 49ers. They just ran right through Pittsburgh. And you had the last team that really looked terrible was the Seattle Seahawks. All 4 were projected to be contending for the playoffs, Byron. Is this just first game? I mean, you played it for who cares? You chalk it up, or is it a little peek into the future on some of these teams?
I think mostly just coming out of the preseason, and this is the first game. I think a lot of adjustments need to be made. Of course, Burrows coming out of calf injury, and he hadn't had a good games against Cleveland. And Cleveland, if you look back at the track record of the last 3 years, Cleveland have really had his number in Cleveland. So it's one of those things where the 49ers. It's 49ers. The defense is awesome, and they played a complete game against the Steelers. But I just think too that the teams with the good coaches, the teams that understand coming out of preseason and the timing and some of the plays and things are not there yet. Gonna rebound and reassign and make the readjustment. Seattle, I think they was cocky. I think they still was building off what they did last year. But you got to give the Rams credit. They still got the great coach. They still got some great players on that team, and they got good young players. I mean, some teams have really improved themselves with good young players, and those are teams that stepped up in this first week in the NFL. So those are some of the things that's happening right now, and that just goes to show you that it's a lot of balance in the NFL for us week to week. you can get handed your hat and then see that that's what happened this first week. But I think the good coaches and some of the good players, and you have to make the adjustment. Like Bowles got to get in shape. A couple of players got to get in shape, and that's what's going to happen. That's what we saw the first week, I think.
I wouldn't worry about the Cincinnati Bengals. They just have to shed some rust. They might even lose this week again and be 0-2, and Burrow might be so.
Yeah.
After a few games, Cincinnati's going to be fine. They're going to make the playoffs. They're a good team. I wouldn't overreact to Cincinnati. The loss to Cleveland, and even if they lose to Baltimore, I'm not overreacting to them at all because they're going to be fine. Seattle, I'm worried about. I mean, the Rams are really just a shell of the team that won the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, yet they beat the Seahawks decisively, and Geno Smith was terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah.
And it makes you kind of think. Geno Smith had a great year last year, okay? And I thought he was going to have a good year this year. I have some doubts. You got to look at any player, their body of work over their career. That's what you got to look at. And Geno Smith's body of work hasn't been that impressive. That's why he's kicked around the Jets, the Buffalo, the backup to Russell Wilson all the years. And so he finally got a starting job. He managed the team well last year. I wouldn't be surprised that after a few games, Drew Lock, is in there. If he's playing poorly by next week, I wouldn't be shocked if they pull him for Drew Lock. I know it sounds outrageous, but Drew Lock could have gone to other teams, and Seattle convinced him to stay as their backup quarterback, and they did it for a reason. As for Brock Purdy, I thought Sam Darnold should be starting. After watching Purdy against the Steelers, I was wrong. Purdy's the guy. He's their best option, that quarterback. He's a special type player. I don't know if he's going to be a great player in the league, but he's definitely a starting caliber NFL quarterback. So kudos to Brock Purdy. I watched the game against the Steelers. The way he took that defense apart, made some good throws, smart throws. Purdy's here to stay.
Well, one of the things I always think about is practice. The offensive coordinators, the position coaches, they keep stats, and you still got to perform like in practice and what you do in the film room and all that. So these guys know who's a better quarterback is. They feel comfortable with these guys, and they understand, hey, this is your team, this is your assignment, blah blah blah. But I think personally, people forget about practice, and they, to me, practice is important. And what you do in practice, what you do in the film room, and what you do, with the offensive coordinator for his game preparation, those are the things that also count too. And that you see that. But when you go into your assignment and you play in the real games, then that's when your timing needs to be there, and that's when you need to step up, and that's when your confidence got to kick in and all of that. So those are intangible things that I know that people don't understand. So I know you can write and pencil in people to come in and play, but you still got to understand that these coaches and these scouts and everybody that's a part of the team know who the better player is. And that's my
Byron, the big talk around New York here is who are the Jets going to get as another quarterback on their roster, because they only have Tim Boyle as the backup. Right. And they have Zach Wilson, and you need three quarterbacks. Okay, you need to get someone else in here. But some of the names, it doesn't make sense. You hear Colin Kaepernick, give me a break. He's been out 6 years. And if I'm the coach, I'll be honest about it. Everyone is standing. Colin Kaepernick's taking a knee. Who the heck wants to revisit this? This is your job. You got to be focused on football 100%. You don't want to be in the you don't want your players in the locker room having reporters come up, well, what do you think of Colin taking a knee? Because something's going to happen in society, probably during the season, where there's going to be an uproar, where there's going to be demonstrations. You don't want your mind off football. Then we hear Carson Wentz, the same Carson Wentz who lost the starting jobs in Indianapolis and Washington.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You got to bring in somebody that really that really gonna bring more value, more, just have focus. Somebody that's been playing. Huh?
Jack wants to talk about the Jets the whole show. We're not going to do that. So we're going to push on. The three young quarterbacks all lost this week. Bryce Young, I still don't think is going to be a successful quarterback. Richardson played pretty well. He ran well. He threw for 233 yards and a touchdown. C.J. Stroud didn't throw for a touchdown or interception, so he had a pretty good game. I think Richardson, the Colts are playing the Texans this week, if I'm not mistaken. So it's going to be the battle of the rookie quarterbacks. What do you think is going to happen in that game? You got the Texans, or do you think the Colts will beat the Texans with Richardson leading the way?
Man, we was talking the other night. I was thinking that the Texans gonna beat the Colts, but they definitely have the better quarterback. I've been on Richardson bandwagon since they drafted him. Just going through the training camp and in the combine, and I think he's gonna be a good player. He just got to get this, get some more pieces around him, some better receivers. But right now, I think CJ is just playing good enough not to mess up. But when he's still, I still think he got some ways to go. But of all the three quarterbacks, I think Richardson right now has got a little bit more upside than the rest of them. But I really think Houston gonna probably win the game because they play good at home. They was in almost every game last year, and I think they have a better coaching staff now. And of course, we'll see. But I just think the Colts are gonna be really competitive. I just hate that they didn't bring Taylor back and sign him. But the Colts, they played good the first week, I thought.
Yeah, Richardson, he's a great athlete. He loves taking off and running. He got hurt at the end of the game against Jacksonville by trying to score touchdowns. And Minshew actually had to come in at the end of the game. And he has to show that he can be a passer in the NFL. There gets to the point where he can only run so much, as seen by Josh Allen. At least Josh Allen can make some great passes. But Richardson, we have to see that from him. I don't share Mac's opinion on Bryce Young. I think he's going to be a really good quarterback in this league. And I think by the end of the year, it's going to come together and you're going to like Bryce Young's game by the end of the year. C.J. Stroud, he's going to be, I think, a really good quarterback too, but it might take a bit of time. But Richardson is more like a highlight reel quarterback right now, like you get the oohs and ahs because he's such a great athlete. But I don't have that same feeling long term for Richardson as I have for Young or Stroud.
Well, let me give you Richardson's stat as far as passing went. He went 24-37, Jack. It's a pretty good game.
Yeah,
and what type of passes? How many yards, Mac? You have
threw for 233 yards.
Not bad.
Not bad, right?
No, not bad.
But I was gonna say too that the Texans had 4 sacks this first game though. The defense played well.
Yeah. Well, they got a great defensive coach over there, being the head coach right now, Byron. So I expect Houston defense to play really well, especially in the beginning of the year. Let's take a look at the Chargers in Miami. I think this is a preview of the championship, Byron. Everybody's worried about Tua getting hurt. Any quarterback can get hurt. I know Tua's history. I got it. But any quarterback, as we saw in the first game, can get hurt. And if your starting quarterback gets hurt, of course you're not going to make the playoffs. I really believe that this was a preview of the championship game. The Chargers, great playing. Miami, great playing. And these two defenses are nothing to scoff at either. These were just offenses outplaying the defenses, Byron. I like both of these teams this year.
Yeah, absolutely. They both came out very exciting. I like both teams as well. They're gonna be something to watch this whole year.
So I got the Giants we can get to. I got 10 minutes to rant and rave here. We almost didn't do the show on Wednesday night. I almost called out sick. I knew Jim was really nice about the Giants. So Jim is still okay, my boy.
Yeah, we just missed Jack we wanted Jack to call in and talk about it, but he didn't call in.
Yeah, well, listen, I was talked out. You want to hear something funny, guys? I call my cell phone carrier and he wants to talk football with me. He doesn't even know who I am. But he says, "Hey, what did you think of the game Sunday?" And the guy was located in Pittsburgh, yet he's going on a rant about Daniel Jones. And he's from Pittsburgh. He's a Steeler fan. He says, "How could the Giants sign him to that contract? He's just an ordinary guy. Didn't they see what he did off the first 3 years before the fourth year?" He was going on an absolute rant. A guy in Pittsburgh who isn't even a Giant fan. He's putting the Giants down for, their Daniel Jones signing. I was kind of laughing about it.
All right. Well, thank you for that, Jack. So let's get to the Giants. Now, you being a football player, there are certain advantages that offense has, and there are certain things that offenses can do to offset the defense's, use of their hands. And of course, the first one is to change the snap count or the cadence. Daniel Jones definitely didn't do that. The Cowboys were in the backfield. As soon as the ball was snapped, the offensive linemen weren't even out of their stance, and Dallas was already going by them. I expect that they will be practicing changing the cadence of snap count this week, Byron.
I hope so. I mean, that's fundamental football right there. You got to be able to go on different sounds and different snap counts and so forth. And I couldn't understand why they didn't do any of that. And I guess they were just so caught up in
the rest of the nonsense. The rest of the nonsense everybody's talking about. Even Aaron Rodgers changes the snap count and cadence at
Absolutely.
39 years old. I mean, come on. You're not. All right. I don't.
Hey, I'm going to say this. When I was coaching the little league boys, if I say alert, guess what? We don't snap the ball. We going to pull the defense off sides. That's fundamental football.
Let me tell you what bothered me about the Giant 40-0 loss. It was more than just execution. Any team could have a bad game. Any team, no matter how good they are, for whatever reason, the vibes aren't there when you wake up, a couple of bad plays. But the Giants had no leadership. And the emotion, for the most part, comes from your defensive unit. Someone has to step up, make a play, get everyone riled up. And I see Thibodeau jogging after Dak Prescott on one play. Jogging. Can you believe it? He's on the other side of the field, just jogging slow. I mean, come on.
Jack, not only that, the ball is snapped. Thibodeau's still in his stance while the play is going on. Byron, me and Jack talked about this. Jack might be right. Thibodeau might be a bust. He may have a good game against the Cardinals. He might not.
Yeah, God knows. Yeah.
By the time the half of the season is over, if Thibodeau doesn't get his stuff together, I can see the Giants trading him.
Absolutely. He should be more prepared than ever. I mean, he don't have no more excuses. When you that high draft charge, you got to be ready to play in the National Football League. He should have no excuses. You're absolutely right. And you got to bring it.
There is talk that the Buffalo guy they got, Boogeyman, maybe playing at Thibodeau's position at least half the time now. I mean, the guy, we had a shot at Michael Parsons. That's water under the bridge. Yeah. The Detroit Lion defensive end that was drafted in the first round.
Hutchinson.
Hutchinson. Yeah. They come in, they make an impact right away. We say, okay, Thibodeau needs time to, whatever. No, the time's over. It's your second year. Supposedly you had your stuff together. You worked out hard. All this nonsense. Get it. Start playing football or sit down. That would be me as a defensive coach. If I'm Wink Martindale, I'm saying, listen, do this or sit down. I expect Simmons to have a good game against the Cardinals, his former team. Normally, the players playing against the former team have a good game. I expect to see Simmons have a good game this game, Byron.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. Absolutely. I just think the Giants have no excuses. I mean, from the coaching staff to the players, how do you lose 40-0? How you not score? Just little small things need to be said and corrected. Hopefully this week they corrected themselves.
Byron, you block down to the guy in your gap. I taught this at 10-year-olders to do this. Mm-hmm. I was in the high school field, And we had this huge defensive lineman that was standing across from me.
Yeah.
And I had the offensive lineman there. Obviously, you want to know how easy it is to get leverage on a big guy, like to move this guy. And they were all sitting around. I took my hand and put it on their shoulder pads and pushed them back. These are basic things that you teach kids and high schoolers. I mean, what I think happens, Byron, I think as some of these players become pros, they think they could just go on the field and use their athleticism and forget about everything we were taught. And the coaches have got to go back and reteach this to some of these athletes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with everything that you're saying. And it seemed like to me they left everything in the locker room. They was on vacation. And the Giants had since 1983.
Yeah.
40 points.
Yeah.
Since 1983. I mean, just little things that you don't see in this day and time. And it just
But it's attitude. Imagine the guys you played with, Harry Carson, LT. They would not have put up with it. Maybe they're going to lose the game bad, but they're going to get ticked off during the game.
Oh, yeah.
The effort is going to be there during the game. They're not going to just throw in the towel during the game at any point when it's going that bad, because those guys had like tremendous pride. You wonder about this Giant team, that defensive unit that looks good on paper. I mean, it's just something about the attitude, the way they submitted in this game. But I will say this, guys, if I gave you guys any choice for who the Giants could play this weekend of all the NFL teams, you have the perfect team in Arizona.
Absolutely.
This is a get-well game.
Byron,
They should
do
somehow
not
lose this
agree with
game.
that. Do not agree with that. This is not going to be as an easy game as people think. The Cardinals have one of the most aggressive defenses in the league. Former head coach of the Cardinals is a former defensive coordinator of the Eagles. He knows the Giants. This is not going to be an easy game as people think. Go ahead, Byron.
No, and plus you can just appreciate the Cardinals the way they played Washington. Really?
Yes, that defense scored a touchdown on a fumble sack. I'm just saying the Giants better go down there with an attitude that they're going to go out there and play their best football of the year, or they may get beat again.
Oh, they have to, Matt. They were so bad against the Cowboys.
You're right. One more thing, Byron. No halftime adjustments at all.
No halftime adjustment. None.
I mean, what are you doing? Would you go back there and you say, "Oh, you're doing okay"? I didn't get it. I blame the coaching staff as much as I blame the players. The only coach that I say did a good job was Wink Martindale with his defense. They only allowed 14 points against that Dallas offense. That was the only silver lining of that game, Byron. That was
absolutely.
Good. That's right.
Yeah, and that's what you got to build your momentum around. You got to make sure the defense stay intact, and you got to keep saying that. But also you got to get some leaders. You got to get some leaders. I mean, Harry Carson and all those guys would get up in your face, and they will let you know that this is not the Giants. This is not what we do. We don't do this. We don't play this way. How do you have a guy just run through the field goal line like they did and block a field goal?
You don't.
I mean, like you say, they don't even have gap blocking.
No, the guy on the outside blocked the guy blocked the farthest guy out. Just let him go right in. Yeah. That's basic football again, Byron. And this is what the Giants got to get back to. You want to use all that speed, trick plays, do that as you go on.
Yeah.
The Giants will run. They better run Saquon Barkley 25 times this week and pound that ball in there. He'll break one or two, and the Giants could win this game. If they go back and start throwing the ball again, I'm going to be heated. I'm going to come on the show and I'm just going to yell at everybody because the Giants, the ball is better than that. I don't know about the offensive coordinator. I don't know if he's better than that or not. I know that special teams coach has got to go. The Giants special teams has stunk since he's been there. I don't even know why he's still a coach there.
They've always had problems. When Joe Judge was the coach, his thing was special teams, yet
same special teams coach, Jack. They've kept him, and they've kept him. I don't know.
Guys, I will say this. Brian DeBall is under no danger of losing his job. The Giants could have a terrible year, but based on last year, he's the coach next year. Unlike Robert Salah, if the Jets unfold, Robert Sala's not going to be back next year, even
I
losing
think
Aaron
he's safe.
Rodgers.
I think he's safe now because of the Aaron Rodgers injury, Jack.
Yeah.
I think he's safe now.
Let's.
Yep.
Well, we'll see. He's maybe a little safer if they don't have a good record. But Brian DeBall is going to be the coach next year. The Giants. Daniel Jones is going to be the quarterback. I think no matter what. I think they have a certain amount of rope that they're going to be given.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just because of what didn't happen in the past. Yeah, no lie, no joke. Well, I got to go downtown Dallas.
So Byron, I mean that I had.
Everybody been letting me have it here. I just I've been quiet. Hopefully they can rebound, make the adjustment. I mean, I can't even go nowhere in Dallas. I can't go nowhere here. They killing me. And but anyway, we'll see what happens.
Parsons comes on and tells the coaching staff, "You should have took Daniel Jones out in the fourth quarter because of the rain and he was getting killed." I mean. What else needs to be said? I don't know.
Right. Micah Parsons was right, actually. Let me ask you this, Byron, right before you go. My Jets, can they derail the Cowboys this week without Aaron Rodgers? Could they actually win the game?
I think so, because sometimes when a team come off a big win like the Cowboys did, they think they got everything going on. But I think if the Jets come in here and play a good, sound, fundamental Jet football game like they did in preparation, I just think their defense is still strong enough, and maybe they can beat them on special teams. So I think it'll be a good game to watch. It's gonna be the game of the week, I think.
Mm-hmm. We'll see. I mean, I don't know. Zach Wilson's still got a lot to prove to me.
Zach Wilson ain't that bad though, Matt. Zach Wilson's not bad. He's not bad.
Byron, don't be one of those people.
Aaron Rodgers, since he's been around Aaron Rodgers,
Byron, don't be one of those people. All of a sudden, start singing praises of Zach Wilson.
I'm not singing praises.
When you know that they should, you're one of those that get rid of Zach Wilson last year. I mean, he hasn't changed that much. Yeah, come on. I mean,
but I'm saying he got two great running backs, and the receiver Garrett is man. He's off the chain.
Listen, I agree. The Jets have a good overall team. But Dallas Cowboys are going to put the smackdown on them. I'm sorry. It's going to happen.
I hope not. I just say that. I hope not.
I know.
Okay.
All right,
I'll see you guys. I have to go.
Thanks a lot, my friend. We'll see you next Friday, and be rooting for the Giants this Sunday. Have a good
because we got Thursday night football here in Dallas. We're watching the Giants and 49ers game.
Kansas City we're playing who are we playing? The 49ers? The 49ers.
Yeah, we're playing 49ers out there in San Francisco. So this is
a tough part of our schedule.
I think this is their first home game. The Giants.
We were talking about before, Byron. The Giants, if they can get through this with go 2-3 or play 500 over the first 6 games, are okay. This is a tough part of the schedule for us. I mean,
absolutely, it is. It's gonna be tough. It'll be tough. All right. I'll see you guys. Okay.
Take care, Byron.
All right, Byron William, our NFL analyst, and Jackie. I mean, no rest. We got the Cards, and we don't beat the Cards, and San Fran comes in.
You don't beat the Cards, it's gonna be trouble this year, because I'm gonna tell you, Matt, the numbers would be pretty simple. I think the Giants at 9-8 can grab a wild card position, because I don't think the NFC East is strong. They'd have to then go 9-6, but this is one of the games you would think would have to be a victory on your schedule, because if you play the Cowboys again, you play the Eagles twice, you'd have to make up this loss somewhere along the line against a really good team in a game that you maybe wouldn't be expected to win. Then you'd have to win. And I'm not as high on the Cardinals as you are. You're talking about their defense. I think they're terrible. I don't think the Washington Commanders are too strong of a team themselves. I think they're struggling on offense, even with Eric Bieniemy there. And that's why the Cardinals played them a close game. But the bottom line is the Commanders won. They got the W. I hate to circle back to the Jets very quickly, and I'm only going to do it quickly. But winning that game meant a lot as far as the tabloids go. Because if the Jets lost to the Bills, there's a good chance they're going to lose to the Cowboys Sunday. That means they would have been 0-2, and things could have spiraled out of control. Now that they want to know, even if they lose to the Cowboys, they got that little cushion they could play with, which brings us up to Keith Engel in the 0-1 New England Patriots.
Well, I wanted to introduce
guys. I'll see you later.
I wanted to introduce Keith properly, the host of TGI Sports and one of the best handicappers in the business.
Some days.
So, I mean, hey, we all pick Seattle, Keith. What are you going to do? I mean, we all
making money after week one. It's
it's true. It's true. It's a long. It's a, what do they say? It's a journey. It's not a destination.
It is a journey. That's correct. And I don't know if you didn't post my picks. I thank you for that because
I did post your picks. I will post them again Sunday.
A little scary right now, but we'll see how it goes. It's only 1 week.
That's true.
I agree.
That's very
By the way, real quick before you jump, I know you got stuff you want to jump into, Mac, but real quick, I agree with Jack. Listen. When Aaron Rodgers went down the other night, there was a shock factor. They didn't play real well. Zach Wilson didn't play great when he came in. They regrouped in the second half and played a really good football game. I thought that defense is really, really good.
Yeah.
Psychologically, that was a huge win for them. Huge way to come back and not just because they could have easily folded that game up. And they only need Zach Wilson to manage games. He doesn't need to go out and win games. He doesn't need to be Aaron Rodgers. There's enough talent on his team to win if he just plays good football. That's all.
I don't disagree with anything you're saying, and I'm not saying the Jets aren't a good team. They are a good team. They just don't have a good quarterback. If it wasn't for Josh Allen turn the ball over four times, we wouldn't even be having this conversation right now. We would just say the Buffalo Bills beat the New York Jets. That would have been the conversation.
But you can't discount the Jets' defensive efforts and game plan in those turnovers either. Those contribute to those. Josh Allen played a bad football game. Don't get me wrong. But the defense put in front of him contributes to those mistakes as well. So that's all I'm saying.
He rolls out to his left. He heaves the ball downfield into double coverage.
That's a stupid play. I mean, that one, I cannot excuse that one at all.
No. All right. So
if you're throwing deep on third down and it's an interception, it's nearly the same as a punt. So those interceptions.
Well, I don't.
You may as well take your shot downfield.
I don't know what the circumstance was. If it was 3rd and 100 and he did that, then you're right.
Yeah.
Keith, you take the guy underneath, you pick up the first down, keep the drive alive. Come on. I mean, that's stop trying to be a hero. Stop trying to be a hero. That's all I'm saying. So Keith, we got some college football games coming up. We'll go through the top 10, and if there's anything that maybe you think is an upset or maybe something will happen that will change the outcome. And of course, we got to talk about Deion Sanders also. We're forced to,
it's enthusiastic about that.
It's part of. I mean, I think we all, unknowingly signed a contract that we have to talk about Deion Sanders every week. So let's start off with number 3 Florida State at Boston College. I don't think there's a chance of Boston College upsetting Florida State.
I do not. Boston College is not a good football team at the moment. Their coach is probably one of the hottest seats in the country. Florida State showed last week there was no letdown after beating LSU the first week. I like this Florida State team a lot. It should be no contest.
We have Penn State at Illinois, number 7 Penn State. Is there a chance Illinois could pull up an upset here, Keith?
It's on the road, yes. Brett Bielema's done a really good job at Illinois. They had a bad loss at Kansas in week 1, but Kansas is better than they've been in most years. But there's a chance I think they could keep this game close. And their offense is not, like most of the teams in the Big Ten West is not very good. But they could keep this game close. I think Penn State will win a close game.
Okay. Central Florida against or is it Central Michigan against number 9 Notre Dame, Keith?
No game here at all. The Central Michigan will not even come close to this game. Notre Dame's playing better every week. I know people keep saying the first 2 teams they played Navy and they played whoever they played in week 2. But But they beat a pretty good North Carolina State team last week. So
Yeah.
on the road, that was a good victory for Notre Dame.
Big question: can number 10 Alabama actually beat Southern Florida, Keith?
They will. Yes, I think you'll see a big bounce back by Alabama this week.
I think so too. Western Kentucky University at Ohio State, number 6, Keith.
This is interesting. If this game was at Western Kentucky, I might give them an upset alert here. But being it's going to be at Ohio State, this should be no contest either. I don't think. High scoring. Bet the over in this game.
All right. Bowl Green, and take that for what it's worth, folks. With Keith's picks, I'm just warning you ahead of time. Bowling Green at number 2 Michigan. Does Jim Harbaugh return this week or the next week, Keith?
Next week. Yeah.
We
Again,
already know.
it's not going to be this won't be a problem for Michigan.
Wyoming at number 4 Texas, Keith.
You know what? Interesting game. Wyoming, in fact, I picked them the first week to upset Texas Tech, who was a lot of people's darlings for being a dark horse contender this year. Wyoming's got a good football team. Texas, if they have any kind of letdown, it could be a closer game than we think. But they should win this game fairly here.
What is Wyoming? Is Wyoming a physical team, Keith? Is that what they are?
No, they play like a lot of those Mountain West teams. It's kind of an wide open offense. A lot of them play those air raid offenses, and they play that same type of football.
Okay. And of course we have South Carolina versus Georgia. I don't know. Maybe
it's one of the few upset chances that Georgia's got a fairly easy schedule through the SEC. Outside of a couple games, this is one of the games that I would have said before the season. South Carolina's got off to a great start, having lost to North Carolina week 1. But if Spencer Rattler plays like he's capable of playing a quarterback, which he doesn't often do, it seems, they could be in this game. But I figured Georgia will probably be fine.
So let's get to the most highest ticket price game this week. I think college football game day is going down there. We got Colorado State versus Colorado.
Thank you.
Trash talking going on between the two head coaches. What do you think, Keith? Is Colorado State any match for Colorado?
Based on what I've seen so far, no. And Jay Norvell, the coach for Colorado State, should not give Deion any bulletin board material. He makes up enough of his own. He doesn't need you to give him some to rally his team. I think Colorado will probably have another year at home. But reality sets in the next 2 weeks. They've got USC.
Well, reality is going to be this, Keith. They're number 18 in the nation right now, Colorado, rated number 18. If they win this week, when they win, and if they win decisively, what number will they be next week?
Well,
at the end of this weekend.
It's hard to say that because, I mean, if everybody wins ahead of them, then theoretically they'll be 18. So it's hard to say. Do I see them taking a big jump if teams lose ahead of them? Maybe. But
top 10, maybe. Maybe they sneak into the top 10.
I doubt they got any shot to jump into the top 10. They could win 70-0 this weekend. They're not jumping in the top 10.
When does their schedule? When does their schedule get a little tougher, Keith? Is it after this game or
next week? They got back-to-back weeks. They've got USC and they've got Oregon, so they'll be 3-2 at the end of September.
Okay, all right.
We can write it down, or we'll find out that they are really good. That's what we're going to find.
Right.
I have my doubts.
Little Yankees judge hits a grand slam yesterday for the win. I mean, they're playing decent ball right now. Something to look forward to in the future next year. I mean, at least it's fun again, Keith, to watch the Yankees play.
It is, and they're playing spoilers, in which some teams get into, and other teams just fold up and get ready to go play golf. But the Yankees, I'm impressed with the way they've battled here down the stretch. They do have something to play for. They've got this 30-year stretch of finishing over 100, which I think is important to them and important to the organization. Nobody's ever done this in sports, so they don't want that to go away. So I think it'll be interesting to see how they finish out. Deflating with the injury to Jason Dominguez last week, that's been the one downside of this past week is he's going to miss most, if not all, of next season now with that injury that he suffered last weekend.
Keith, the big problem is this, and it's been a problem for a while, but I'm coming on board of it being a major problem. And the solution isn't to just eat all the money because it's enormous. John Carlos Stanton, what do you do with him? The only solution I can see is to convince him to play winter ball, to play the outfield. Don't let him tie up the DH slot. Play him in the outfield as a regular outfield. If he gets injured, so be it. So be it. You don't want to see anyone get injured, but if he can't play, he has to go on the disabled list. You can't baby the guy anymore. He's not hitting to make that, that situation worthy at this point.
I would still try to find some sucker to take him.
No one is going to take the contract. Come on, Keith. You know that.
But I'm saying we're going to have to eat a lot of the money, just like the Mets did with Scherzer and Verlander. That's the only way you get rid of these guys. And even if you play him in the outfield, he's not a good defensive outfielder anymore, if he ever was. You watch the way he runs the bases. Imagine what you're going to get him chasing after fly balls. There is no answer. That's the problem, Jack, because you're right. They're probably not going to eat the money. And you're going to have to.
Answer this, Keith. Is the answer this? You just keep him on the roster. But there's no longer any entitlement for Stanton. He has to realize you're a part-time player. Unless you produce as a part-time player, then we could elevate you back to full-time and just take it from there. And he's got to get used to being on the bench, and you play him when you play him.
Look, it's happened to better players than him. It happened to Albert Pujols the end of his career. And, you have to accept if you cannot
but
perform.
Albert Pujols was at the end of his contract for the most part.
Well, 3 years. They had 3 years. He did not play every day. The last 3 years of his career.
Well, David Wells had a few things for the players. He called them crybabies, and and he covered his patch up. He wasn't going to support the sponsor, at the Old Timers game there, which I really liked. And there's a lot of truth to what David Wells says. So I mean, I'm glad somebody came out and said it anyway, and Wells never backed down from speaking his mind.
No, I look at it. There's a lot of things I agree with, and I won't get into a lot.
Keith, what's been in the news lately, the last couple of days, now it came out in 2014, A-Rod gave some names with the, steroid situation in Major League Baseball. Now he's being considered a snitch. I think he throws up. You there?
I think I gave him a headache when I talked about Wells. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, he doesn't want to. But Mac, you can pick up on it in the meantime. But A-Rod claims to be a changed man, and if that was said in 2014, somehow I don't like it that someone who has gotten caught in a steroid situation starts naming other names.
Yes.
Somehow I just, I don't feel comfortable with that. And David Wells took A-Rod to task.
But isn't that what A-Rod is? A-Rod does anything to try to, I don't know what he tried. He wants to be everybody's friend, and he's willing to, to turn people in to get it. Just that's a typical A-Rod thing.
Drama with A-Rod, but it did go back to 2014. And A-Rod supposedly claimed, he's turned over a new leaf the last few years, how he's trying to be a better friend, to people. And Keith, we're talking about the A-Rod situation.
Sorry about that. For some reason, my internet went down for a second. I don't know what happened. Did you get any of my David Wells comment or not?
No. I thought I gave you a brain headache or something like that.
No, real quick on David Wells. I agree with a lot of what he said about the game, and I agree with a lot of what he said about a lot of stuff. I won't get into some of the political wokeness and stuff because that gets a little heavy for this show, I suppose. But to cover up the patch is a little self-gratuitous because the reason he did that is that he has sponsorships with other companies is why he covered up the patch.
Oh, I thought he was making a statement there. Well, that goes out.
No, guys, be honest about this. If you were in charge of a baseball team, a company, and you had a David Wells who you had to handle, supervise, you wouldn't enjoy a guy like that. Let's be honest about it. He's a pain in the butt.
Well, he does speak his mind, and if you don't like guys that are gonna just be totally transparent, then yes, they will be tough to work with for sure.
Yes, I mean he wouldn't be
He
a good
always
salesman.
gave
I
Joe
don't think.
Torre a hard time with the Yankees.
He did, but I like the respect he gave the Babe every time he went out to pitch. So he went out.
That's
to
the
touch
truth.
the
That's the
statues.
truth. Keith, let's talk a little bit about the Patriots. They're kind of recap the game against the Eagles. I thought the Patriots played a very technically sound game against a very good team. Of course, first game for both too. Mac Jones didn't look as bad as I thought he would against that Eagles team, and Cook helped you guys out a lot. He had a good game. Stevenson got it going late. It could have went either way, but of course the Eagles escaped with a victory there.
Yeah, we texted a little bit, I think, after the game last Friday night, Mac, and I kind of agreed that there are no more victories in this game. I get it, but after the first 5 minutes of the game, there was a lot to like. Mac Jones did play well. They gave him the latitude to, when he saw a shot, to take a shot downfield, which he did not have last year. He took it. Kendrick Bourne, much more involved in the offense last week, as I've been calling for all of last year. The running game was a little choppy early, but played well later on. Probably had to give the ball a little bit too much to Zeke, probably because of Stevenson had the flu, but they both played well together. The defense, I thought, was really good. A couple bad penalties at the end. They had a chance to win this game in the fourth quarter, and some bad penalties and some things happened there, but you'll work those out. Again, a lot of this is week one and bad football. The Eagles didn't play a great game either, but I came away with a lot of things to like about this game. Not the final outcome, but I saw the things I like a lot.
And you don't got it any easier this week with Miami coming to town at a high-powered offense. Are you going to? I know. Belichick will scheme for the Dolphins. That's how he does. He'll try to control Hill and Waddle. What do you think, Keith? I mean, it doesn't look that good to me.
It's tough because when you have one guy like that, Bill Belichick's strategy has always been take that guy away and let somebody else beat you. But they got a lot of weapons. That's the problem here. You can't take them all away. So he's going to have to pick his poison. Where last week, I thought, and again, going back to last week just for a second, one thing they did really well to take away that pass rush for the Eagles, and I said, I think on the Sunday show, they'd run a lot of screen plays and quick hitters. So Mac Jones just get rid of the football and, gain whatever they could gain. And that went well. And this time you've got to kind of reverse that, and you've got to find a way to take away the big play from Miami. And that's what they will protect against, the big play, right? So you'll see them give up a lot of yardage Sunday. It's a matter of, can they keep them out of the end zone once they get down to the
Would this be a coming out party for Christian Gonzalez, the corner that they drafted, who looked so good in training camp?
It could be if they pick on him. He played a pretty good game Sunday too, I thought. Again, I thought the whole defense played pretty well. This will be
They put him on Tyreek Hill?
Possibly, but I think you're going to see a lot of different looks. I think you're going to see a lot of mixes of man, and there'll be a lot of different stuff trying to confuse Tua. So I don't think you'll see like Gonzalez up against Hill all day long. No.
Yeah, it'll be more a zone coverage, and especially over the top. As you said, I expect the same thing, Keith. Make them drive the field. Hope they make a mistake.
One of the Jones contingent got hurt in practice yesterday as well, which might affect this. I don't know how badly. He hurt his ankle, I think. Jonathan Jones, who was their top cornerback last year. We'll see how much that has an effect on Sunday. But it's going to be a tough game. And again, this is a game I'd like to win at home. So we'll see how that goes.
What did Aaron Rodgers getting hurt do for the Patriots? Does this make the Patriots maybe a closer to getting the playoffs without the Jets having that MVP quarterback there?
Well, it certainly helps. I mean, I'm certainly not a guy who ever roots for guys to get hurt, so my team will do better. But nobody wants to see a guy get hurt. But no matter how I feel about Aaron Rodgers and some of his nonsense, I think it helps every team in that division. Myself, I picked the Jets, as you know, to win the division. I still think they've got the talent to do it if Zach Wilson can play mistake-free football. That's asking a lot, maybe based on what we've seen so far, right? I'm sure they're going to bring a veteran in there soon. I don't think they have yet. lot of talk about some different guys, and I think you'll see a veteran in there in the next couple of weeks just to be a fail safe, because I don't think they want to play. Who's the guy? Boyle? He's
Tim
kind of an
Boyle
action.
well, yeah, Tim Boyle. But the thing about it, the Jet fans, I fear, aren't going to show a great amount of patience. That's why I'm glad the Jets are on the road against the Cowboys this week, because you're not going to have a situation if Zach Wilson isn't playing well of people getting on him. He's not going to hear it from the crowd itself. Yeah. And I don't think Zach Wilson has as long a leash as people think, just by Robert Salah saying he's our quarterback. And I think the Jets are very sensitive who they bring in, that fans might start wanting that guy to start if it's a name quarterback. So if they brought in someone like a Brett Ripien, he's not a threat to Zach Wilson at all. But if you bring in a name quarterback like a Carson Wentz or Jacoby Brissett, they become a threat.
Well, if they I don't think they may bring. I agree with your point 100%. If Zach Wilson really starts to struggle, then maybe they do bring in one of the bigger names and hope they can catch lightning in a bottle, But
they need to bring in someone now, Keith, because they need 3 quarterbacks. They got to make their move now.
No.
Colt McCoy seems to be emerging as a favorite.
Yeah, Colt McCoy is a guy who can go out and manage a football team with a really good cast around him and not make mistakes. So again, that would be dangerous. If you brought him in, they'd be calling for him. But anyway, to your question, everybody, I think it just makes this division just that much tighter, which it was already tight top to bottom. And I think it's that much more tighter now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as you said, it was, I mean, a lot of people, believe it or not, were picking the Jets to go to the Super Bowl. And to me, that was.
Listen, crazy. I was rooting for the train wreck. I didn't want it to be an injury to be the train wreck, but I wanted to be wrong in this pick. But
the Jets are 1-0. They've won their only game so far. So come on,
I just said I'm not. I've said several times in this last half hour, I'm not giving up on this team. They just need somebody to manage that position. That's it.
Yeah. Keith, what do you think of Mac's Giants losing 40-0 to the Cowboys?
Bump in the road. I think this is still a good football team. This is, again, it's a long season. I think it's indicative of the fact that the way teams don't get prepared. We talked about this a lot with Jim Jeffcoat and other situations. So that the way they train is not conducive to getting ready to play real football. And the Giants got themselves in a hole. This is a good football team but with very small margin for error. They don't have the margin for error that the Eagles have and the Cowboys have. When they're clicking, they're very good. But when they get in a 16-0 hole in the first 6 minutes or whatever it was, it felt like the first 2 minutes, but they're not going to come back from those games. They don't. Daniel Jones doesn't have the weapons to just go out there and throw the ball all day long.
Keith, I normally, as a fan, and even as a coach, I want the team to be competitive, because you want to, you want to see where your weaknesses are and where your strengths are and where you need to fix. In this case, I think it's better that you just got blown out. I mean, the heck with it, throw it away. Let's start all over again, because, no what ifs. In this case, you just got beat down. I mean, that I think is helpful too. I mean, you're going down.
To me, it's one game. You're right. It's 40-0. Who cares? It's one loss on the loss column. That's all it is. One loss. That's it. That's why the Giant fans and the Giant staff, I know the Giant staff's going to approach it that way. The fans need to as well. Listen, and when I say this, please understand, I'm not saying the Giants are as good as the Patriots during their
I was
Super Bowl run. Patriots have. I remember a year they got beat by a bad Buffalo team, 38-0, week 1, and won a Super Bowl. And I'm not saying they're as good as that. I'm saying even good teams get blown out. So it happens. It's better it happens now than in week 13.
I agree.
So again, if I'm a Giant fan, I don't give up on their season based on this at all.
That's what I love about you, Mac. On our debate show, one of the questions was, would you rather get blown out or lose a close game? And I said it's easier to get over it if you get blown out and then you just dismiss it. And you said, oh, no, it's better you lose a heartbreak, a tight game. And now you're saying with the Giants, it's better they weren't competitive.
What I'm saying, Jack, is when as a coach, you want to know what your strengths and weaknesses are. The Giants have no idea what their strengths and weaknesses are after that game, except their defense that only gave up 14 points against the Cowboys.
Offensive line is obviously their big.
Obviously.
We were talking, Keith, about leadership with the Giants before you came on the show. With the Patriots, is the leadership coming directly from Bill Belichick, or are there any major leaders on that team?
I think that there's a leadership void definitely because of on the defensive side when McCourty gone, and I think it'll take some time for somebody to really assume that mantle. So I think you can say on that side of the ball, he probably is having that impact, but somebody will grow into that role, whether it's a Duger or
Judon.
Or Dujon could be that guy for sure. On the offensive side, Mac Jones has to be the leader of that offense, and that team needs to believe in him, and I think we're taking steps towards that happening.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, again, going up against the Miami, the Giants have had a very tough first 6 games. I mean, not counting the Cardinals. They got to play the 49ers this Thursday coming up. So, I mean, if the Giants can finish 2-3, I'm happy, Keith. Just keep it together where you're still in a race. I think you can say the same thing about the Patriots. As long as in the first 5-6 games you can play near 500, you got a chance at making the playoffs still.
Look, there's been a lot of 0-2 teams, 2-4 teams that have gone on to have very good seasons, Super Bowl seasons. And, again, do you want to get blown out 40-0 and all those losses? No. But I think it's just, again, an overreaction to week 1. That's all.
The year the Giants beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl, the first of them when they snapped the Patriots' unbeaten run. The Giants did lose the first 2 games of the regular season. But I'm going to tell you, it's easy to say that, you can come back. But time runs out very quickly in the NFL. If the Giants should lose to the Cardinals, they're looking at the 49ers next. So that means they're probably going to be 0-3. And the season, I don't want to say is lost, but the season is practically getting away from them, right off the bat. If that happens, they've got to beat the Cardinals this week.
They're not losing to the Cardinals. Cardinals are the worst team in the NFL.
I told it to Mac, but Mac's trying to tell me about the Cardinals having this stingy defense. He's trying to tell me, Mac, that the Cardinals have a good team. That's what Mac's trying to tell me. Thank you, Keith, for being a voice of reason.
I think he's just trying to, if there should be some kind of major upset, because in my mind, it would be a major upset if they beat the Giants. That way he can fall back and say, I told you they had a good.
Thank you, Keith. Couple Knicks notes and we'll let you go. Quickly, coming up on the extension, Keith, are we extending them or are we trading him?
Who we talk about?
Quickly.
Quickly. I thought you quickly. That's funny. I thought you said we were quickly coming up on the extension. I extend him. I would extend him. I think he's a big part of this team. But again, we got to be careful where we spend our money. I get it. But I think this team, we're heading in the right direction. I think he's a big part of that direction. So I think you got to extend him.
Chief, you don't think it's too risky? He had a small body of work where he looked really, really good. Okay, is he kind of like the Daniel Jones of NBA players? Had one season, you want to give him the big money based on that? Because his whole body of work shows he's a good player coming off the bench, but not for elite money.
No, but he's improved over his 2 years, and he's a kid too. Remember, he was in the league at 19 or 20 years old too. So I think this kid is going to grow. If he's, and by the way, you need good bench players as well. So
the money he's asking for is in a bench player salary, Keith.
No, I get it. But again, in New York, you're going to overpay for guys. That's just how it works here all the time. So I'm a big fan of the kid still, and I think I would extend him.
Rumors of the Greek Freak that the Knicks are all in on trading for the Greek Freak, Keith. Giannis comes here. They're going to have to give up a boatload.
Well, and again, they'll have to go boatload to give him, and it's going to cost a boatload of money to pay him too. So these rumors have started since the end of last season, and I think he would be a huge. And look, he's a great player, and I think he would fit this offense really well. Actually, You would be able to play with Julius Randle, I don't think, but I don't think you afford them both anyway. But I think he would be a media darling here in New York. That's what I think. I think he'd be
Keith,
wonderful.
there would be four number one draft picks: Barrett, Robinson, and a couple of other pieces to get him.
I don't think they would get rid of
Not
Barrett.
realistic.
I'm a Barrett fan. I hate to give up Barrett, but
You would have no choice. He would have to be part of the deal with
look,
Milwaukee.
if you see what the Knicks do with draft picks, for crying out loud, most of the time, except for Barrett and except for maybe Quickly. Well, actually, Quentin Grimes is good too. I mean, draft picks are crapshoots anyway. I trade draft picks and Julius Randle for this guy in a heartbeat. Now, if there are 3 starters, that's different.
Chief, that makes news in the papers, the tabloids. Giannis will be a free agent, in a year or so, I believe. So why would the Knicks trade for him? They'd risk losing him unless they could sign him to an extension.
Well, the window to win isn't all that big either. And in 2 years, he'll be 2 years older. He's not, he's been around a while now. He's not a young guy. He's not a kid, I should say. I don't know. I'm really intrigued by this possibility. I really am.
Yeah, I mean, haven't had
if you say get Peter or the Greek Freak, well, give me Giannis any day of the week over
no doubt. I mean, to have a center like that back in New York, the fans would go out of their minds.
He would be a media darling here. It would be awesome. Yeah. Now, would the team be any good? I don't know. We'll see.
Well, I imagine they would be pretty good. I think Giannis is good for about 40 wins.
So.
Yeah,
he's a really good player.
You got time to stick around, Keith, or you got to go?
I can stay for till quarter of or so, probably.
All right. Since the Philly guy hasn't come in, you could be the Philly guy without all the pain.
Let me go get my pen.
I'm going to tell you guys how marketable the Knicks are, because I'm taking my son-in-laws to an NBA game. I was going to take them to a Knicks game. I looked at the price of tickets, and it was like 5 times as much as the Nets. The Knicks and Nets are playing, one night in late November. We're going to the Net game because it's going to cost me a lot less, and it's expensive as is. But the Knicks tickets, even if you're going to sit in the boondocks, what it costs, it's crazy.
It's been that way for a while. Even though they're no good, it was like that. So,
Yeah.
Madison Square Garden is Madison Square Garden. Barclays Center is Barclays Center.
That's the truth.
Fans, you keep hearing about franchises saying players, well, we have the greatest fans in the world. The Knicks fans might actually be the greatest sports fans in the world, at least, in the United States, because they haven't gotten that down on their team. Their team hasn't won a championship forever, and they haven't made a serious run at it, even though they got to the finals a couple of times, and they keep turning out the way they have. What loyalty!
That's actually a great point. Even Yankee fans, when the Yankees are terrible, Yankee fans stay home. So I think that's probably a good point. Knicks and Ranger fans both, I think I could say the same thing about. Yeah.
So Keith, a little bit we'll cover with you with the Phillies, the Eagles versus the Minnesota Vikings. 4 turnovers by the Vikings against the Eagles. That's not going to fare too well. But what was interesting is the Eagles, and I talked to Jack about this, and a lot of teams are starting to go back to the ground since they've been drafting all these fast, light defensive linemen, and they've been drafting defensive backs in the first round. So I think the run's making a comeback, as you know, as the Patriots did against the Eagles too. I think the ground and pound is coming back, Keith.
Well, you saw the Eagles run it 48 times last night for 260 yards ish, 3 touchdowns. So again, I think you're right. And again, it depends on the team that you're playing, I suppose. But you don't often see 40. What was it? I think it was almost, or maybe it was more than a 2-to-1 ratio run to pass for the Eagles last night. That is totally contradictory to the way most teams are approaching this today. And you take what you're given. I think we were doing the show before this, and of course it was a Cowboy fan that was bashing the Eagles offense last night. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Did you watch a different game than I watched? That offense was tremendous last night.
Yes.
So
that big offensive line just pushed them around like they were, they were playing college players. So I mean, I could see that happen a lot more this weekend, and I wouldn't be surprised if in the next couple of years we're going to be back to ground and pounding again.
It's a copycat league, so absolutely. If somebody starts to have success or multiple teams have success, then other teams are going to go in that direction. It's always been that way on both sides of the football. So
yes, Minnesota Cousins did throw for 384 yards, but a lot of that was at the end of the game, fourth quarter kind of thing. And the Eagles were just letting them do.
To give the Vikings credit, yes, they turned the ball. I mean, he threw 4 touchdowns last night. It wasn't all garbage time because they were within a score of the Eagles in the fourth quarter. So it wasn't total garbage time. I get what you're saying. He had to throw the football, yes. So, but I wouldn't call it because garbage time as we know it historically. They weren't 30 down. They were they could have won this game in the fourth quarter, but
could have.
It was a bet. They didn't have a stop on a drive where the Eagles scored their last touchdown. They would have got the ball back with a chance to win. They didn't stop them. So this Eagles team's,
And also, Keith, real quick, we talked about this earlier too. That stupid rules, reaching for the end zone, going over the pylon, and the other team gets it at the 20-yard line. That rule has to go. That has to go by the end of this year. I mean, that's what you're penalizing somebody for trying to get a touchdown. He's not trying to lateral it into the end zone for somebody to recover. That's ridiculous.
No, that's a touchdown. I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't either.
That is a bad rule. You see it. It seems like at least once a week you see that play.
Well, players shouldn't complain. Just don't fumble the ball.
Well, there's that.
Hold on to the ball. That's what you're supposed to do.
But if you have control of the ball over the pylon, it's a touchdown. That's all you have to do.
I mean, even when it doesn't go out of bounds, look what happened last year in the playoff game between the Ravens and the Bengals. Baltimore tries to quarterback sneak into the end zone, but they're like on the 1.5-yard line. They started to move too soon, and the ball got, taken away from them and returned for a TD. When you stretch out, you better be careful stretching out for those few extra inches.
Quarterbacks is dangerous for sure. I mean, there's a lot of hands and bodies and helmets moving around when they're trying to stretch that ball out over the goal line. It's a little bit different than this play, but I agree.
Yeah, you're trying to score a touchdown. That's your job. Little Phillies news. Here's the Phillies manager upset with the Braves celebrating after they're hitting home runs. Now, I've watched the Phillies hit home runs before, stand there and stare at it, toss their bat. I mean, you lost the game. Let's just chalk it up to you lost the game. This is what baseball is now. They celebrate hitting home runs like NFL celebrates touchdowns. That's just the way it is.
Well, we used to take care of this on the field. If a guy showed you up, then next time up he'd get a little chin music. But now nobody wants to pitch inside. And if somebody gets pitched inside, they all take exception to it. They don't. If you did that, in the 70s, you'd expect to get hit the next time, and you just go to first base and you'd accept it most of the time. Right. But no, the game is now, and I don't like some of that celebration stuff, but your guys are doing it too, by the way, Rob.
Yes.
Yeah, yes. And Bryce Harper was the one who said a couple of years ago, we shouldn't be so sensitive. Batters should be allowed to celebrate when they get a big hit, a home run. And he said pitchers should be allowed to celebrate. They strike out. It's not like showing up the opposition. If you point to the pitcher, like I got you that time, then, you could annoy him when he's at a down moment if you're making it personal.
If you do some really over-the-top histrionics, like Randy Rosarina for Tampa Bay is a guy I just hate what he does. He takes him an hour to get around the bases. He kind of does this little thing at third base, and I'm like, gee, just run. I get it. You should be able to celebrate, but let's not take it too far.
Yeah, but in all, there's a certain point where you cross the line. Take tennis, for example. If a player in a major tournament in the finals loses a heartbreaking game, he goes to the net to shake hands with the guy who won or the woman who won. And if they're on their back, lying there celebrating, not getting to the net in a timely fashion to shake hands, it could tick the person off. What about a team with the Stanley Cup when they line up at the end of a series, the losing team to shake hands, and they see the winners celebrating? They don't want to be around after that. They just want to give a quick sportsmanship congratulations and get out of there. So sometimes you have to consider the losing person or the losing team's feelings. They don't want to stay there to see the celebration.
Then they should have played better and won the game,
There you go.
There
you go. I listen. I don't think it's a big deal, but anyway, Keith, I want to thank you for filling in for the Philly sports guy. You did a great job. Maybe
I would have my face if I'd known it was going to come to this. So.
All right. Thanks for sticking around, Keith. You have a great day, and we'll see you on Sunday, brother.
All right. Have a great weekend.
See you, Keith. Thanks.
Keith Angle from TGI Sports stopping in as he does on every Friday. So, Jack, in the last 15 minutes or however long it takes, if it's shorter than that, we'll talk a little bit about boxing. I see that Shakur Stevenson and Edwin Los Santos agreed to fight in November 16th.
Yeah, I was going to start off with something else with that, but you're right. Edwin de Los Santos and Shakur Stevenson are fighting in reportedly November 16th. That's because Frank Martin, the unbeaten Frank Martin, an elite prospect at lightweight, was supposed to fight Shakur Stevenson. And then Martin pulled out of the fight because Martin kind of wanted to renegotiate. It never made sense if you were the promoter of Frank Martin, because he's unbeaten in 18 fights. He's a top prospect. Why would you want to throw him in with Shakur Stevenson, one of the best fighters in boxing, a young elite talent in his own right who has more experience than Frank Martin? It wasn't a good fight for Frank Martin, who could have a great future in the sport. But part of the reason may have been the purse splits. Shakur Stevenson reportedly was going to get in the neighborhood of $5 million, and he offered Frank Martin $1 million. But the fight's for the vacant WBC title. So why should Shakur Stevenson be getting so much more money? He's not the champion. He's not doing Frank Martin a favor by giving him a shot at the title. So Martin he didn't want such a purse parity. He wanted to be a little closer to 50-50. And I think 60-40 in Stevenson's favor would have been fair, but it never got to that point. Stevenson's attitude was, well, you take what I give you. I'm the big name here. But they're fighting for a vacant WBC title. So, so Martin kind of pulled out, but I feel the real reason Martin pulled out, I think his promoters saw this is really risky. Shakur Stevenson's a great fighter. This isn't such a good fight for their man at this stage of his career. Yesterday, Mac, was really a historical day in boxing. It was 100 years to the day that Jack Dempsey knocked out Louis Angel Firpo. He knocked him out on September 14th, 1923 in the Polo Grounds in 2 rounds. Now, that fight was historical. I'll give you an example. In 1950, Mac, 1950, they had to poll the greatest sporting event of the last 50 years. This was from 1901 to 1950. In 1900 until the end of 1949, or however you want to cut it. And Dempsey Firpo was voted the greatest sporting event. But now if you speak to people, sports fans, they won't even remember the fight. That shows you the way it was historically lost in time. But in the Dempsey Firpo fight, 1923 at the Polo Grounds, there were 88,000 fans in attendance. Imagine that, 88,000 fans. And the fight starts with Louis Angel Firpo, who was from the first fighter from Latin America to ever fight for the heavyweight title. He fights the icon Jack Dempsey. He knocks him down to start the fight. Then Dempsey knocks Firpo down 7 times. And in that era, Dempsey wasn't forced to go to neutral corner. The rules didn't make the fighter go to the corner after you knocked an opponent down. So he kept knocking him down. At one point, it looked like Firpo wouldn't get up. He barely got up at 9. Then Firpo starts swinging wildly. He backs Dempsey off, and one of his rights knocks Dempsey out of the ring. Dempsey lands his feet high in the air. He crashes into a typewriter. He bangs the back of his head. That should have put Dempsey out. Dempsey gets back in the ring before the 20 count. Now, people think of the 10 count. That's if you get knocked down in the ring. The rules are if you get knocked out of the ring, you have to count until the count of 20 to get in. Someone's got to do something about that rule, Mac. Imagine the fighter gets knocked out of the ring and he tries to take the steps up in the ring and he's by the other guy's corner. They're like in his way, blocking him, not letting him get through.
Yeah.
The fun we would have with the controversy. But Dempsey gets back into the ring. Some people claim he was aided, he was pushed back. Yeah, people are trying to push Dempsey off him. If Dempsey's landing on you, you want to push him away. Don't lean on me, you're back. But no one lifted Dempsey up and helped him to his feet and got him onto the apron. He got on himself. He got back on the ring. Dempsey claims he didn't remember anything after that. But the bottom line is he survives the rest of the round. And within a minute, 57 seconds to be exact, the round two, the following round, he knocks Firpo down twice. And the second knockdown, Firpo's counted out. There's a famous painting that was done by the artist George Bellows, the most famous boxing portrait, I think, of all time, because you could find it in museums. You could go into restaurants. It shows Firpo swinging and Dempsey out of the ring and his feet in the air. And people don't even know it's the Dempsey Firpo fight. They just see it as a portrait.
Right.
Okay. And one of the legendary fights of all time, Dempsey Firpo, 9 knockdowns in 3 minutes, 11 knockdowns total in 3 minutes and 57 seconds of actual fighting.
That's crazy. I mean, can you imagine today if you didn't have to go to a neutral corner? I mean, that's just crazy.
Well, my buddy Frank Laterzo said it on last night's show. We had Glove Fist. Can you imagine George Foreman standing over a guy ready to club him? How are you supposed to get up? You want to know something? Sonny Liston, and I didn't mention this with Frank, later would use that as an excuse in the second fight against Muhammad Ali.
Right.
He got knocked out in one round. A lot of people think it was a fix that Liston could have gotten up. And Liston did later say, I could have gotten up, but the reason I didn't get up because Ali was standing over me like a crazy man, like he was going to hit me. He said, you got to put one hand on the canvas, to help yourself get back to your feet. So Liston said he was rolling around kind of to get away from Ali, who was standing over him, challenging him to get up. So that was kind of an interesting thing that Liston said, well, if he put both hands up to, one hand to get himself up, Ali would have hit him because he was standing right over him.
Yeah, who knows, right?
I don't believe that, but,
Yes,
yeah, interesting. Well, Dempsey did that with Jess Willard. If anyone wants to go to YouTube, when he won the title against Jess Willard, he stood right over Jess Willard. Every time Willard tried to get to his feet after getting knocked down, Dempsey would be hitting him these savage punches. How do you defend yourself when you're trying to get up off the canvas? The guy's standing over you, and he's going to keep hitting you down.
I don't know. Kick him? I have no idea, Jack.
Wow, I mean, what a rule change. But it came back to haunt Dempsey eventually, or it maybe helped him indirectly. The long count against Gene Tunney, 1927, when he tried to regain the title, they had the new rule put in. If you knock your opponent down, you have to go to the furthest neutral corner. And in the rematch with Tunney, he knocks him down in the 7th round. Tunney's badly hurt. Dempsey starts to go to the neutral corner, then instinctively comes back because he wants to hit Tunney. The referee starts counting to the count of 5. Then he stops counting because Dempsey's not in the furthest neutral corner. He sends him back to the furthest neutral corner. And then he starts to count all over again. And according to whatever you want to believe, Dempsey was either deprived or winning the title by Tunney getting the extra time. Or it could have been the best thing that ever happened to Dempsey, because had he gone to neutral corner and waited, maybe Tunney, as I think he would have beaten the 10 count. and there wouldn't be any controversy that would have added to Dempsey's iconic status.
Great stuff, Jack. So, folks, we're coming to the top of the hour here. I want to thank you all for joining us. Thanks to Byron, thanks to Keith, and we'll be back tomorrow with the Saturday debate show. Also, the big football show on Sunday. Joining, we'll have a lot of super fan guests. We even got the Super Cowboy coming in, which will,
Super Cowboy coming. I didn't know that, Matt.
Yep, he's coming in.
How do you pick these guys up?
And Jim Jeffcoat will have some cover from us as we're attacking the Cowboys, as we always do. So, folks, Friday 8 to 9, Sunday 8 to 10. Join us on the Mac and Jack Sports Show. Have a great Saturday. Stay safe.